Hi, this is Pete Robinson and this is an introduction to Logic Pro. This is the first session, it's the absolute basics. In this session we're going to cover how to create tracks, how to select sounds, how to set the time signature, how to set the metronome tempo, how to use locators to make a loop, how to record in live, how to move and loop regions, how to save and move your projects. So the absolute basics. The goals for this session are that everyone in the group should be able to create a project, record some music into it, save the project, and most importantly transfer the project onto the memory sticks. We've had a lot of trouble with people losing work, so this is something we need to get the hang of right at the start of the course. Can't have people losing their work. Okay, so let's go on to Logic. Now if I just shut down this one I had here. So if I select to create a new project in Logic, we come up with this. This also usually happens when you start Logic up. And most of the time we're going to want to use this top one, create an empty project. There are other options which we can look at some other point, but this is the easiest one for now. So click on there and straight away we come up with this box. This is asking us what we want to add into the project. We can add in different types of tracks depending on what we're going to record onto them. A lot of the time we're going to be using what we call software instruments, which are sounds that are built into the computer. We can add as many of these as we want at one time, but for now let's just add one. Here's the number up here. Ignore all the other stuff for now. Click Create and our track appears here. Now we need to select a sound for the track. At the moment there's nothing loaded onto it. So on the right here we have what we call the library. Now sometimes you'll find that this disappears if you press the wrong button, and it usually comes back if you click on Media up here and then select Library. Okay, and then within the library the sounds are organised in different categories, in folders. So let's try a synthesizer, and maybe let's try for a synth lead, something like let's find something really horrible about a funk city. Don't know what that is. Now to play the sound, which is now loaded, we can either use a MIDI keyboard if it's plugged in, or if you press caps lock on your computer keyboard, like I'm about to do here, we end up with a virtual keyboard, which turns the keyboard of my computer into a MIDI keyboard. So I can play the sound from my keyboard. God, that does sound pretty bad. Right, you'll notice the track has now been named after the sound and it's got a nice picture to remind you of what you're playing. The next thing we need to be able to do is to set the tempo that we want to record at. So down the bottom here we have a tempo indicator, and let's just double click on that and type in a tempo. Let's go for 140. And also we might need to set the time signature. Now with the time signature on Logic we set each number separately, what they call the numerator, which is the top number. We could double click on that and type in another number. I think we'll stick to 44 for now, and the same with the bottom number. Of course you remember the bottom number should only be 2, 4, 8 or 16. The next thing we need to do is to select a loop. So up here in the top of the window here, there's this bit where the bar numbers are, and if we click on that we have this green section which tells us that the computer's going to loop. Now down here we have the loop indicator. They call it cycle on this computer. It's just going to keep going round and round between these 2 points that we set. And we can set these anywhere we want. For now, let's try setting it a little bit of a shorter loop. So if I grab hold of the edge here, you see the cursor changes to that different colour, and I can just hold that down and drag it in. Now I could also drag in the other edge if I wanted to make the loop shorter. Also, if I grab that loop in the middle, you see the hand sign, the hand mouse pointer, I can actually drag that loop around so we can record at different points within the arrangement. And also I might want to create a completely new one, which I can do by clicking up in this top bit, not where the lines are here, but right up here with the numbers. I can click and hold, and I can draw a region in that's going to be looped. Now one problem most of you will come up against is if you click and drag the other way. If I drag backwards, let me do it now. Yeah, here we go. We end up with this, with these stripes on. That's all bad. We don't want that. That won't loop. So make sure when you drag to the right. Okay, so let's set a 2-bar region at the start here that's going to loop. We've got the lovely sound loaded up. Now if I click on record, I'll get a 1-bar intro, so I'll get the 4 clicks and then I have to play. 2, 3, 4. Not brilliant way of putting music into a computer, but if it's all you've got, then that'll have to do. So I've now created a region. Now a region is a lump of music here. The region is on a track, and the track is inside an arrangement, inside a project. Now these regions can be treated much like text in a word processor. For example, I can copy them by clicking on them, holding down the Apple command key and pressing C. Then I could move my locator, which tells me where I am, to somewhere else, press Apple V, and I can make a copy of that track. They can be cut by holding down selecting it, holding down the Apple key, the command key and pressing X. I'll paste it back again there. And also, they can be looped. So if I grab hold of the edge of this, you see that the cursor changes to this sort of loopy looking thing, like a circle. So I can grab hold of that and I can drag to the right. And that will create a loop, so it will create a copy without me actually having to copy and paste. Quite useful. If you need to create a drum part that goes through the whole of the arrangement, you can quickly drag it and loop it. Okay, that's the basics of creating a region within a track. We can add another track if we wanted by clicking on this button here, this add button. And again we'll select software instrument and just click create. Now on here we can go through picking a sound, so let's pop into I don't know, let's go into keyboards, let's select electric piano maybe. There we go, there's a Rhodes. Now I can either record more music into this, or I can always drag my created regions into that. So as I play this back, it will now play on both sounds. That's the basics of creating music, for want of a better word, on Logic. Now the next thing we need to be able to do is to save. So we go up into save here, and then while you're working on college computers and you need to keep your projects portable, so a good place to save things is onto the desktop. A good policy is often to have your own folder, so here I'm going to click on new folder and we'll call this Pete's Work. And then within Pete's Work I'm going to choose a name for my project, so I'm going to call this Lesson 1. It's a good thing to call it something you're going to remember. Now down the bottom here we have a very important button, this Include Assets. if you click Include Assets, it will actually make a copy of any of the instruments that you've used and save those along with your project. Now this has the advantage of meaning that you can use these on other computers that might not have these instruments, but it has the disadvantage of making the file size massive, so it takes ages to save and it won't fit into emails, that sort of thing. Now all the computers in college have got the same sounds loaded on, so we usually want to make sure this is not included. So just check that you haven't got Include Assets selected. Make sure you're saving it to somewhere you're going to be able to find it, preferably the desktop, into a folder, and call it something. Lesson 1, so I'll just save that. Okay, now I can shut down Logic. Now those of you that are not familiar with Macs, it's no good just clicking the X like on a PC, because that leaves Logic running. So you need to actually go up into the top and say Quit Logic Pro. Okay, so here we are on the desktop. As you can see, mine's a total mess. And here's the folder that we created within Logic, Pete's work. If I open it up, we can see that inside there's just one file called Lesson 1, that's our project. Now sometimes if you've recorded audio into your project, or if you've got a movie with your project, that sort of thing, there'll be a lot of other files in this folder. But for now this is a nice simple project, so it's only got one file. There's a problem with these files in that they don't attach very well on email programs. They're actually not just one file, they're like a little archive of files inside there. So they're a bit awkward to use. So the way we get around that is that we compress the folder. So if I right click or control click, if you've only got a one button mouse, onto there, down here select compress, and we get a new file, a zip file, just like WinZip on the PC. Now this file can easily be attached to emails. Most email programs will recognise that, no problem. So just make sure that once you've created any music at all, get it saved into a folder, get the folder named, something you're going to recognise in the future, and then drag it or copy it onto your memory stick. If you haven't got your memory stick, God help you, just make sure you zip it down and email it to yourself, and then you can get that back again later. So just get used to good file maintenance at the start of the course, so we don't want anyone to lose any work, and hopefully it'll all go smoothly.